To the Supreme Court now, where justices are tackling two major gerrymandering cases. Justices are hearing arguments in cases from Maryland and North Carolina, and they'll have to decide if it's unconstitutional for state legislators to create election maps to gain political power.
The case in Maryland deals with Democrats drawing new district lines to take out one of the state's two Republican seats in the House of Representatives. Over in North Carolina, the focus is on Republicans redrawing district lines to strengthen their political advantage. For more on this, let's bring in Nick Ochsner. He's a chief investigative reporter for our affiliate WBTV in Charlotte, North Carolina. Good to see you, Nick.
Yeah, good morning. How you doing?
So, Nick, it's no secret, let's start with North Carolina, that Republicans in that state redrew election maps to favor their party. Republican lawmakers in the state have also blatantly said they're going to use political data in drawing this map to gain partisan advantage. That's a quote. So can you take us through this case and how gerrymandering has impacted the politics there?
Yeah, absolutely. You said it's no secret, and that's because you're right. The Republican lawmakers in the North Carolina General Assembly have been very explicit about this. This stems from maps drawn in 2016 after previous maps were thrown out by a different set of judges in a different gerrymandering case. So Republican lawmakers in the North Carolina House and Senate redrew these maps in 2016, and State Representative David Lewis, who was in charge of the map making, said explicitly that he drew the maps in a way that he thought maximized the amount of congressional seats Republicans could get. He said he drew a map where 10 Republican districts and 3 Democrat districts because he didn't think it was possible to have a map with 11 Republican districts. But at the same time, he said that he did that because he said it wasn't illegal. So in a way, the Republicans were kind of forcing the hand of folks who oppose this kind of gerrymandering to say, if you have a problem with this, come challenge it, and that's what they've done.
So there is at least a challenge for another case that's currently working its way through the state court, right, in North Carolina. What can you tell us about that case?
Yeah, absolutely. So at the same time this is playing out at the U.S. Supreme Court today, there's speculation, especially now that we have a more conservative-leaning batch of justices on the U.S. Supreme Court, that the justices may say, we don't think this is an issue, that it's a violation of federal law here in the U.S. Supreme Court. So at the same time, the group that's brought this case to the Supreme Court in North Carolina has also filed a separate legal action in North Carolina's state courts, functionally challenging on the exact same premise, hoping that this might be a better avenue to have a court in North Carolina where actually the partisan advantage on the North Carolina Supreme Court is the opposite of what it is at the U.S. Supreme Court, and might be able to attack this party gerrymandering through the state courts. And that's something that some people expect might end up playing out in states across the country, depending on what the U.S. Supreme Court does with the cases being argued today.
Mm-hmm.
So, Nick, how will the state argue in support of their decisions to redraw maps during today's oral arguments?
Yeah, well, and we've pretty much seen a preview of this in an op-ed that was released yesterday by 2 senior Republicans behind the maps. They say that it is not illegal to take partisan or party affiliation into consideration when you draw these maps. We know that it's illegal to take race into consideration. We know that a number of other things you can't do, but prior to today, and maybe after today, we'll see, it is not illegal to use party affiliation, the Republicans say, and I'm sure the Democrats in Maryland would say the same thing, not illegal to use party affiliation as a consideration when you're drawing your map boundaries. That's kind of where gerrymandering, that term, came from. And largely, I think that's what they're going to rest on.
Well, I'm really curious to see how this unfolds, especially at the Supreme Court, because if the Supreme Court determines that it's really not a federal issue, it's a state's issue, then you're right. Nick, we're going to see these cases popping up all over the country.
Yep, for sure.
All right, Nick Ochsner, thank you.
And they may very well.
Yeah.